Hey, I'm Lewis, the lead developer of Brawlers of Duality. This is a game I've been working on since 2021 and released back in November of last year. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to make an arena fighter with Smash Bros. Style mechanics. I would always smash my hands around the desk pretending I was playing this game, and then 20 years later, me and my best friend Koopy started working on a prototype for it. It was so much fun making that prototype, I started a company, hired some of my friends so that we could learn the skills needed to land jobs in the industry, and just improve our skills in general, all while making the game that's been in my head since I was a little kid. Throughout working on this game, I moved from the US to Sweden and back, quit my job, and now I'm trying to find work in the industry, all while making my game better. My biggest inspiration for making this game was Super Smash Bros. Melee. It's a game I played with my friends growing up and in college. It was how I met my best friend Koopy and a bunch of other close friends. I loved how I could enjoy it competitively in 1v1 or with teams, and I could also just play it for fun in free-for-all. Another big inspiration was Battle.Right. It's very similar reasons. I played it in college, played it for fun, played it casually, and it had a bunch of modes, so when I was starting to make my own game, I wanted to add a bunch of modes. So, one mode I want to add is a roguelike mode inspired by Enter the Gungeon and Hades. Another mode I added is a mode inspired by Kirby Air Ride City Trial and just Battle Royale games in general. And another mode I want to add in the future is something inspired by Lethal League where it's more sports based. And then I also added a mechanic to swap characters on the fly like in Marvel vs. Capcom. Before working on Brawlers of Duality, I did a bunch of independent study on game AI, data science, and machine learning in games. My biggest project was an input predictor that was trained on professional Melee player play patterns. It would guess, given any single frame of gameplay, what would happen on the next frame, and it was pretty accurate. I also made a bunch of game AI and machine learning projects in Unity, including a self-driving car that would race against traditional AI racers. This was all with the goal in mind of using some type of data science algorithms to create an AI that plays like a human, while also making it so the predictive layer of netcode could guess more accurately what a player would do, so lag would be more seamless. I've yet to actually get this working in my own games, but I want to in the future. While learning all of that stuff, during a summer during lockdown, Koopy saw I was using Unity, and he was learning 3D modeling at the time, so he was like, hey, let's make a game. And then, so we did. I learned how to make an online game using Photon Pun 2 in Unity, and then I did basic character controllers and combat, while Koopy did the modeling and animations. From there, we had some friends over, played it, had a lot of fun, so we were like, let's make it a full game. So from there, I started working on a game design document to flesh it out, and yeah. I spent weeks working on the design document that would plan out every little thing for the game, down to the exact frame a certain attack would come out during an animation, so like a jab would come out on frame 2 and have this certain data, it would do like 2 damage, 50 knockback, all of that, down to the littlest details, up to like the story for the game, the art, the inspirations, all of that was condensed down into a 54-page long document that I still use to this day. Like, anytime I make a new character, I go reference that. And while working on this, I found out my biggest inspirations were Marvel vs. Capcom and Super Smash Bros. Melee. I really liked how there were characters of multiple genres fighting, like you had a fox from space fighting a guy with a sword, and with that, I was like, there's a sense of duality, so my game became Brawlers of Duality. And I have very similar combat, where you have guys from the future with guns fighting people with swords. So yeah. And after creating the design document, I hired some friends to help me with the art, created a production sheet to make sure we were on track and didn't block any of each other's work. With all the groundwork done in the design document, I took the proof of concept and built upon it using the characters that my artist designed and I 3D modeled. We had 3 characters, a player database, a login system, and a 1v1 stage, and I slapped together a quick little website to hosted the demo on and showed it off at work. A bunch of my coworkers were really impressed and had a lot of fun playing it, so I started to look for work in the industry. But after interviews, people kept telling me it was really cool, but it's not in Unreal, and that's what the industry uses. So with that, I was like, okay, I learned a lot, I know I can make the game better, I'll just remake it in Unreal. And that's what I started doing. After making the decision to jump to Unreal, I spent a couple months learning Unreal, with the biggest chunk being how to create server-side rewind, client-side prediction, and server reconciliation to help with lag compensation. I'm going to go on a big side tangent about this nerdy stuff. So, client-side prediction and server reconciliation is a system that lets us immediately move our character and attack with them on our screen while sending that message to the server, and then that server will confirm, and then if there's any issues, then on our screen it'll jumble it up a little bit, just really fast, to correct any of those issues. And then for server-side rewind, that's what's used in first-person shooters a lot, where if you're running behind a wall and then you suddenly die, that's what's happening. But it's a trade-off we need. So for the player who shot you, it felt great because they saw you on their screen and shot you, and then you died. But if we didn't have server-side rewind, what would have happened is they would have seen you on their screen, shot you, the bullet would have just gone through you, and that would have sucked for them. So we have to do this trade-off where sometimes, to make the game feel better, you have to make it feel worse for one of the players, and that's just design of online games. So, after learning all of that nerdy stuff, I made a first-person shooter to practice everything I learned, and then I started remaking the game. From there, it was all about making more characters, improving my 3D modeling and animation skills and kit bashing, and it was going great until I decided to re-implement the tag team features. It broke everything, the game was unplayable for months, and I just didn't have an understanding that UE5's editor version and compiled builds of the game behave completely differently due to execution order being different. And every day I would wake up, 3D model, animate, and then do some code changes, then test with a friend when they got home from work, and if that test didn't fix the bug, I'd have to wait until the next day to try fixing the bug at all. And it was super frustrating, and on top of that, I got jury duty, so I was really mad, but after a few months, my parents got me a computer for Christmas, and from there I was able to test on my own. And after I got that bug fixed, everything was going great. I was just plugging away at making more characters and more animations, and had a pretty polished game, so I decided to start looking for work. But after a little bit of not getting any job offers, I decided I needed to just finish the game. So with that, I went to Sweden to live with a bunch of other game developers, and yeah. While in Sweden, I got a bunch of help improving on my game. I did weekly playtests, ran a tournament, got to test on multiple machines, got to test with higher latency and packet loss, and then during one of the playtests though, one of the players found that the way you defeat your opponents was really unintuitive. It would be, if you hit your opponent into a wall, we would check their velocity, and if they were going fast enough, they would die. But what would happen is sometimes if you're standing right next to a wall and hit your opponent, they would just explode immediately and die, and they wouldn't understand why, or they would just bounce off, and they were like, why didn't I die that time? So, with the help of my friend Rob, he was like, just make it more like Smash Brothers. So I did, and now you try and knock your opponent out of an arena, and it was so much more fun, and I didn't have to rework a lot other than just the way you die, and yeah. So with that, the game was in a good spot, so I decided to take some time, learn 2D art while I was in Sweden, because there was a class there, and I also did a bunch of game jams with other people I was living with. And after being in Sweden from July to November, I finished up the game, and a week before I left, I had a party and released the game. After returning to the US, I took about 2 months to be with my family, just relax while fixing bugs, And now, I'm back to working on the game while still looking for work in software engineering and game design. I added 2 new stages to the game, using the new 2D art skills I have from Sweden to draw them, and then I 3D modeled them and got them in the engine. And most recently, I did some quality of life updates, where I added more feedback to the menus, button prompts to the tutorial, and
Hot dog of duality! Dog! Hot dog attack. Dog.
made it so you can play as a big hot dog. The next big thing I'm working on is a roguelike mode, so there's more single player content, so you don't have to rely on your friends to have any fun playing the game. And I hope to have a demo and a devlog for that very soon.